Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android, or recommend Spotify. Also, check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel for all your South Florida sports content. And that's the place to go if you want to see our live episodes after Heat games. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. That's 10 different channels. That's the place for the most Heat information and conversation, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Plus, you'll get there with the most intelligent Heat fans. We can't account for all of them, but a lot of them are intelligent. Check it out again, 10 different channels. Link is right here in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge. It's just $2.99, and you can cancel on us at any time. I mean, you won't, but you can. Also, Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your $5. You get $50 in lineups to play right away. It is legal in the state of Florida. It's a great counter to some of the other things that you may play here in Florida. Again, it's the easiest to play. It's the most fun to play. And yes, you can get money out of it. So check it out. It's prizepicks.com, NFL, NBA, NHL, and more. Use the code FIVE. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to mourn us. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the court to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Welcome back to Five on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on 5 Reasons Sports. We got Digital Adel. You can follow him at Digital Adel. Of course, is our draft guru. You can also find him on Playback at playback.tv/5RSN. We got a 2-day break between games. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. Now we've got the Heat playing Detroit Saturday night. Alex and Brady will be there for the coverage. The game does not have NBA Cup implications. Actually, the games that the Heat are not playing tonight have NBA Cup implications. I don't really care, but that's okay. Some of you do. The Knicks are playing the Bucks, and apparently something. If the Bucks win, then the Heat are in, and then they maybe go to Vegas, and then I might care because I might go to Vegas, but that would be the only reason. I saw you out in Vegas, and then and the last time I was out there, but Giannis may or may not play, and who cares? Anyway, well, we're going to talk about something that we should care about, which is that the Miami Heat have nailed the draft lately, and sometimes you need to put these things big picture context to take a look at it. And the Heat are obviously playing well. They're 13-6. No one expected this. None of us expected this. They're almost at that 20-game mark. Worst case scenario, they're going to be 13-7. They've had, by most metrics, one of the top 10 most difficult schedules in the league. By some metrics, it's top 5 most difficult schedules. They've yet to play Washington. They've yet to play Utah. They've yet to play New Orleans. Whole bunch of bad teams that are going to get worse, by the way, because this draft class, as you know, and we just saw Cameron Boozer last night, his debut, score 35. This draft class is loaded. Teams are going to be trying to get up as high as they can. That's going to make some of these games that were easy even easier for the Heat. I'm not trying to, the irrational exuberance thing here, but it looks pretty good right now. And a lot of the reason it looks pretty good is because the Heat haven't had to tank for those types of players, but they've still landed them. And that is a testament to a lot of people who should be getting more attention nationally. I do not know why Adam Simon's name is not on the tip of the tongues of a lot of analysts, except that they don't really follow things very closely. And probably for Heat fans, it's a good thing because he's still here. And look, when we're going to go through some of these picks, I can't say who, first thing, Adam specifically elevated during this time. So I can't say specifically what he was responsible, what he wasn't responsible, what Chet Kammerer was responsible for, what Pat was responsible for, what Harrison's responsible for. There's decisions are made, conversations, Eric Amsler, Keith Askins, others who've been involved in this process over the last few years. The point is, the end result has been good, right, Adele? Like if we were to grade their
Yeah.
drafting since 2017, which is kind of where we're starting this, it's been good, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things too, a lot of people don't realize is that you got to look at draft classes in like a 4-year window.
Mhm.
So you're not like after 1 year, this guy's good, this guy's bad. It's a process to develop these guys. And when you look back at that 4-year window for most of these guys, they've outperformed their draft slot by a lot. So yeah, they've done an excellent job, not just picking the right guys, but
Mhm.
developing those guys.
Yeah, so let me go through some of these. And again, we're going to start at 2017 because the first draft pick who's on the roster is from 2017, and that's Bam. And Bam, of course, was drafted 14th. It always confuses me because he was drafted 14th, but he wears 13, and Tyler was drafted 13th, but he wears 14. I've always wished that they would have switched that at some point. That would have made things a whole lot easier for us. But basically, as I'm trying to call this up right now, Bam, he's fifth in points. I'm doing the cumulative numbers because I do think the cumulative numbers matter. It shows availability. It shows how quickly the guy contributed. Just overall production. Okay, I know these are raw numbers, and I'm not getting into win shares and all that kind of stuff. But just this gives you an idea. He's fifth in his draft class in points. He's second in his draft class in rebounds. He's fifth in his draft class in assists. I mean, if that's not outperformance, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even if you got into the advanced analytics, he's fifth in win shares per 48. So it backs up
Mm.
even with the advanced analytics. So he's well outperformed his 14th draft slot. And when you look at win shares, you look at total points, you look at total rebounds and things like that, Bam outperforms players that have much bigger names than he
Mm-hmm.
has. You
Mm-hmm.
talk about Jason Tatum, you talk about you know, Donovan Mitchell, Laurie Market, and all these guys in sheer production. Bam's right there in the mix with all of those big names from that class.
Okay, so let's go to 2019. The Heat didn't have a pick in 2018. 2019, Tyler Hero picked 13th, even with the time that he's missed, which included this year, fifth in points, sixth in rebounds, sixth in assists.
What more can you ask for?
Right, outperformance pretty close to Bam's outperformance for his draft slot, right?
Absolutely. And what more can you ask for a 14th or 13th pick in the draft? He's, fringe lottery at that point. But there's players again on here, much, much bigger names whenever they were coming out, like Keldon Johnson, Zion Williamson. And of course, Zion has much to do about health as well. He's been more snake bitten. Ja
For
Morant,
that matter.
absolutely. Ja Morant. Even Kevin Porter Jr., when he was picked 30th, he started off like a firecracker. Now he's had off the court issues, but his production's fallen off a cliff as well. So it's just one of those things where they not only draft the right guy, they develop them. Tyler's game has expanded from where he started, like exponentially.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's go to another one, and then after the break, we'll get to some of the others because there's going to be a couple that are brought up here as counters, and I just want to again for context here. Okay, 2020, the Heat took Precious. It was a mistake. I think we agree it was a mistake based on they made a need pick, basically. They took somebody, they need another front court player. They thought he could play with Bam. He really couldn't. I remember asking Pat about that at the presser. Do you think the two of them play together? He said yes. No. And he didn't develop in some other ways. But just to give you, and I understand the frustration about that pick because Maxey was picked right after, and so was Bane. But of course, and I wanted Bane, by the way. That was my pick for that draft. So I'm excused. Okay. I didn't think Maxey would be there. And I don't study this like you do, but I liked what I saw of Bane. I thought he was a Heat player.
Yeah.
Okay. But with that said, all right, you recognize that Precious actually has performed about to his draft slot. He was drafted 20th. He's 22nd in points and he's 5th in rebounds in his draft class. To me, this is a product of there were not a lot of really good players at that stage of the draft particularly in the front court. Teams made mistakes on Maxey and Bain for a variety of reasons, but the Heat were not the only one, and the Heat probably did better than some of the teams that picked ahead of them. If you look at the fact that Precious has actually outperformed in some areas a lot of the players that were picked ahead. So again, I'm not excusing the pick. It would have been great to have Maxey. The one time you don't take a Kentucky guard, I understand it, but it's not a disaster pick. Like it's not like Marvin Bagley going second overall, okay, or Ayton going first ahead of Luka. Like this is not. We're not talking about that.
100%. The percentages of finding a very productive guy outside of the top 10 just falls off of a cliff. So once you get down into the 20s when you're picking, I mean, it's going to be a hit or miss type of thing. It's very rare that you hit on somebody that low, but it's been done before, but it's just very, very rare. So for them to get a guy that was, fifth in their class in rebounding and out, performing about where he was drafted, I mean, you could do a lot of things with hindsight. So I think we look at it for what it is, and they got a guy that played to his draft slot.
All right, so let me give you one more, and this one is not a done deal here, but let's go to Jovic, okay? And I know that Nico's big time in the conversation right now because he's sort of the odd man out. They're going 10, they're going 9.5 deep. Really, is what Spo's doing. Right. He's playing 10 in the first half. If Fontecchio has it going, he'll play him in the second half. I think he's going to phase that out. Ultimately, I think it's ultimately going to be 9 until somebody gets hurt, and then somebody else will be moved in. And there will be some games for Nico, but it does seem like his start, he didn't capitalize on the opportunity, lost confidence. But they have a commitment to him now. They got a financial commitment to him for 4 years. They got to figure out a way to make it work if they're not going to move him. But even looking at his draft position, he was taken 27th. He was known to be a project. He was younger than pretty much everybody in his class. Yeah. Even with that, even with the ups and downs, even with the sending to the G League, even with all that, he's 24th in points, 26th in rebounds, and 19th in assists. So he's not tracking behind his draft slot. He's tracking slightly above it. And the extension shows that there's been faith, that's been put into him by the organization. So I mean, I can't, and he has potential. I still believe in his potential that ultimately he can be, top 10 to top 15 in all those categories in his draft class. I mean, where do you characterize that one right now?
Nico's a tough evaluation for me for this reason with the Miami Heat specifically. The offense that they're running, to me, doesn't cater to what he does best. Okay. He needs a pick and roll or to be playing out of that mid post as well, like off of a curl. He's not really the ball handler that's going to be able to take people off the dribble and ISO and be super effective. So the fact that they've changed their style of offense, it's very difficult. So I think he still can get better. He could still find his way. He's best in the open floor as a ball handler as well, but he also still needs to get stronger, needs to do a better job on the glass, which he can. He's still super young. So there is time to turn it around, but I think he's performing a little bit above his draft slot. One of the better facilitators at his size in that class. And then also, as far as the scoring goes, he's outperformed his draft slot by a little bit in that area as well. So I still think it's an above average pick, but I don't think it's been a spectacular hit in my opinion.
No, and now it almost has to be to justify the contract. So that you're a little bit of a different space because they're not going to change their play style for him. I watch, we watch him with Serbia and you see him get the ball on the open floor and push and take guys. It's like, how do they get themselves back to that with him? And I do feel at this point there kind of needs to be an injury or a consolidation trade. Like there is to unleash him. But then it's tricky because he may lose confidence while he's sitting. And this game that they've got to play right now to kind of get him back to where he was. I thought he'd be potentially one of their top 3 or 4 best players this season. That has not been the case. And so I got to take the hit on that one. All right. Well, and hopefully again, there's an emergence here as we go forward. What's that?
Well, my question is ball handling wise with Nico. Would you rather have Jaime handle the ball or Nico Jovic?
Well, before this season, I might have said Nico. See,
Maybe,
Jaime's
but
been a
that's because
revelation.
Jaime was injured, though. See, I've
I know,
always
but they
maintained.
also did. But last year they also, even while injured, I mean, he was spinning to nowhere last year. Like they got him doing this season,
He is,
and
but that's because when
it's
you don't have your
transformational.
burst,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're trying to do what things your body won't let you do. And so he was spinning because it was all he could do. He couldn't beat anybody off the dribble.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't have any burst or lift. But I agree, the spinning it had to stop.
Yes. Some of those games I thought he was still spinning, like was deep into the night. But also there was a scouting report against him, and there
For
were things
sure.
that were taken away. And yes, you mentioned the injuries. I just don't think anybody saw this with him. And by the way, one thing to watch, and I wrote about this for the SI site. He's the one who lost minutes the other night. He was ninth on
did.
the team in minutes with 17, and that's not a trend I want to see continue. Spo needs to
No.
sort that out. Now he came into the game questionable. I'm wondering if that played into it, but he needs to be in the 25 range, and I think Spo will get him back to that. It's just hard to decide who to sit when everybody's playing well. We're talking about Davion playing well and Larson playing well. And Drew playing well, but that's not the guy that should be the minute should be sacrificed. The on-ball reps may be some. We talked about that with Tyler
Right.
coming back. They got to figure that out also, but he's got to be out there. He's got to get in rhythm because he's been so impactful. All right, on the other side of this, we will talk about him specifically in his draft class, also about a second-round pick who's playing like a late first-rounder. We'll get into that in a second. Before we do, I want to talk about 305-800 Payne. This is your first-round pick if you get an accident. Okay, reach out to him right away. The number is the brand. It's 305-800 Payne. Manny, Danny, their entire team there. They're there 24/7. Spanish, yes. Everybody there speaks it. You'll be able to get through in any language, okay? And they will get you to the attorney who can take care of your problem right away, walk you through the entire situation. We know lots of car accidents in Florida. Unfortunately, I can tell you they are the worst drivers in the world, particularly when you cross the Broward-Dade line. Apologies. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. And you need to be careful. But if you're not careful, or if somebody else isn't careful, which is usually what's happening, it's never our own fault, reach out to 305-800 Payne, and they will make sure that the person who is at fault compensates you for what they did to you. So 305-800 Payne, based in Doral, again, bilingual 24/7 and all that good stuff. All right. So speaking of good stuff here, let's talk about Jaime specifically, okay? So I'm going to remove that from the screen. All right, we're back. Apologize for the clunky glitch there. So let's get to Jaime Jaquez Jr. Jaime was drafted 18th, correct?
Correct.
All right. Can you go through some of the players that were picked right above and right below him?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jaime was drafted 18th. Right above him, you had Jalen Hood-Schifino, Keontae George, Cody Buffkin, and Jordan Hawkins. And then right below him, you had Pods, Cam Whitmore, so Brandon Pajinski, Cam Whitmore, Noah Clowney, Derek Whitehead, and Chris Murray.
How many of the guys that were drafted right ahead of Jaime are not on their first team anymore?
Jalen Hood-Schifino, so that's 1. Cody Buffkin, 2. Yeah, those 2.
Okay. I mean, that's still significant. And then right afterwards, there are a couple right afterwards that aren't on the first team anymore, right? Whitmore?
Yeah. Cam Whitmore, Derek Whitehead's out of the league. Yeah, and Nick Smith Jr., who was like 3 picks below that, he's no longer on his first team either.
Okay. I mean, is that crazy? I mean, we're not that many years out now. This is year 3.
Yeah, there were a lot of misses for people in that draft. Like whenever I put out my over-under list, overdrafted, underdrafted list for that, it was pretty brutal in my commentary for some of those teams.
Okay, so it's significant just on its own that Jaime is still on the roster compared to some of the other guys picked in that area, right? Just on the roster.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me give you something else here. In his draft class, picked 18th, and this is rising with the way he's playing now. 5th in points, 6th in rebounds, 6th in assists. He's playing like a top 5, top 6 pick, right? I mean,
yeah, he really is.
So let's go back to the guys who were picked in the top 5. Who was picked in the top 5 of that draft? For people who don't remember.
So in the top 5, number 1 overall, Victor Wembanyama. Number 2, Brandon Miller. Number 3, Scoot Henderson, who by all intents and purposes is turning out to be not a bust, but a player that shouldn't have been drafted 3rd overall. Amen.
Jaime has outplayed Scoot Henderson. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely fair to say.
3rd pick in the draft. I'm not gonna argue about Wemby. Okay. Look, Brandon Miller. You can argue Jaime's playing on a similar level to Brandon Miller when Brandon Miller's played, but Brandon Miller has tremendous upside. I'm not going to question that. Amen Thompson is an elite defender, right? So,
yeah, he's an elite defender, and he's got offensive upside as long as he figures out that 3-point shot at some point. Asor Thompson's in the same category as Amen in terms of defensive impact. Anthony Black, Jaime's outperformed Anthony Black 6 overall.
He has, although I will say Anthony Black has, as someone who follows Orlando now, he's starting to pop the last 2 to 3 weeks. He's actually kind of a low-key candidate now for 6 man. If he's averaging, I think, 13 points a game. He had 27 in the first half the other night. But yes, overall, Jaime has outplayed him, correct?
Yes, overall. Bilal Coulibaly, he's still better than Jaime Hawkins Jr. Horace Walker for Indiana, he's outplayed him by a lot.
No, he's been awful this year. They gave him minutes. He's been unplayable. I mean, he's been terrible.
But that's what I thought when they drafted him too. I thought it was a terrible draft pick in there. In there, same thing with Taylor Hendricks. He wasn't an awful pick, but he's been outplayed by Jaime as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've got an 18th pick overall who has pretty much outplayed half to slightly more than half of the top 10.
Yeah.
And there were other guys around Jaime's pick that other teams liked better, and they're no longer on their teams anymore. Like sometimes just not effing up is enough, right? Like just not effing up. Beyond the fact that you've got a 6 man of the year candidate and a most improved player of the year candidate, but just not effing up is just part of it. And yet I did hear Heat fans last year who were complaining as Jaime was slipping back and having a sophomore slump for a lot of the reasons that we've talked about, but that we're banging on the front office for it. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I was down on him too, but even so, you got more production from him in those first 2 years and we did podcasts on this, than most of these teams did, as again, they were giving up on these particular players. All right, so let's get to the one that's a little more complex for you, because I know that you had questions about him going into the draft, and I know I still share some of the same questions, although I will 15th overall. Okay. Currently, and again, I know you say it takes 4 years. I get it. Right now, though, he's 8th in points and 2nd in rebounds in his draft class. And that's with this stops and starts, sometimes on the court, although not lately. And that's also with the fact that he wasn't starting until halfway through last season. So is it too early for a reevaluation of that? I mean, do we need to wait the 4 years, or is he starting to pop over some guys that he shouldn't be popping over necessarily?
Well, for me, you got to wait the 4 years. I mean, for content and entertainment purposes, we can revisit this every single year, and we're going to continue to do so. But for like a pure evaluative standpoint, we got to wait the 4 years. The thing I said about Kel'el Ware coming out, he's a top 10 talent. That was evident. The motor concern is just something that I consider in the long term that's going to be a detriment for a player like that. Can I be wrong? Yeah, I could be wrong. One lesson that I may end up taking out of this 4 years from now is even if there's a motor concern, you got to take the player, because if they pop, you end up with the top 10 talent. And so he's definitely outplayed my expectations. I think he's outplayed a lot of people's expectations. I mean, being drafted 15th, he didn't just fall to 15 for no reason. It's not like people saw this player that's a double-double machine and they were like, you know what? We're going to take Donovan Klingeth. We're going to take Zach Edey, who's been good.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they haven't been good, but we're just going to pass on this guy. The reason they passed on him is because there were these issues dating back to high school and through college at 2 different stops, at Oregon, at Indiana. it's one of those things that followed him around. And as the Heat have gone through this process, they've used every trick in their toolbox to get this player to be motivated. Now, the stretch that he's on right now, 14, 15 games, outstanding. The vision, the top 10 talent, it's exactly what the Miami Heat saw. So I've been very pleased with his performance over these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it's not to say that Edey and Klingon haven't been good players, because I mean,
No.
Zach Edey right now has been elite defensively since he's come back. Again, came back from the injury. We saw what Klingon did against the Heat and what he is defensively. So it just looks like this was a draft with some pretty good bigs. I know you like Misi also, and so it was a draft with some good bigs. It just also looks like for the modern style of NBA player, where to me is more the prototype than a couple of these others. Although Memphis may end up building around Zach Edey. I think they may end up building around pick and rolls with him and Cedric Howard, going a totally different direction than they are now. Of course, they paid Jaren Jackson Jr. a ton of money, but these are teams that are going to need to kind of pivot around the talent that they have. But I mean, I think it's fair to say that it was worth a swing. What we're looking at right now and where this could potentially go, when you're a team that is never going to be drafting in the top 10, the way that they're structured and the way that they're wired, and you have a chance at a top 10 talent. And so let's pivot to this before we close, because the one, I'm sorry, let's one more. Okay. I just want to mention him, but it's worth mentioning is that they also got a late first round pick in that draft with a 44th pick. Pella Larson right now, taken 44th, is 23rd in points, 25th in rebounds, and 12th in assists. He's playing like a mid to late first rounder, right?
Absolutely. He's outplayed so many of the guys that were picked ahead of him. I mean, it's an amazing value and a great get for the organization. I mean, outside of AJ Mitchell in Jalen Wells, I mean, he's been the more productive player for pretty much all those guys until you get to the mid to late first round.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely hit on him. There's no question. I mean, and you could kind of see it right away. And not only did they hit on him from a talent perspective, he fits everything they do also. Yes. And when you add that to the fact that they've resuscitated Davion Mitchell back to his draft position, okay, which was a first round pick, but he was not playing like one until he got here. He is playing like, when you're fourth in total assists in the NBA, you're playing like a first round pick. Okay. And then also they still are mixing in the undrafteds, particularly Drew is the one now, right? We did many episodes on this offseason, that they're leaning more into the draft picks, these mid first picks, than they are in the higher upside, who are higher upside by nature than the undrafted, the Struces, the Vincents, the Duncans, all of whom they got to play like, second round or late first round picks during their time in Miami. But, they're not as many of them in the rotation, because these other guys are, and this is why they're 13-6. These other guys are better. Also, by the way, they've got a former second round pick who, you want to take a guess on this? Where do you think Norm Powell is in terms of total points? He was drafted in like late 40s, I believe, way back when, by Toronto. Where do you think he is in terms of total points from his draft class?
8th.
You win. He is. He's 8th and climbing, by the way. He's close to 6th now in his draft class, and he was drafted in the 40s. And so when you get a guy like that, who obviously has the talent to succeed, but also has the chip on his shoulder because he was drafted late, but then he's played like a first-round pick in that draft. He's played like a first-round pick in that draft. He's played like he should have been top 15 if you redraft that thing. That's kind of the perfect combination that they look for. And by the way, Jimmy was that too. Jimmy was drafted 30th and ended up being a top 5 player in his particular draft class. Those are the types of players that they want to lean into from a mentality standpoint. So it's all kind of come together. All right, before we close here, the one guy who has not accumulated any stats yet for them is their current first-round pick, Kasparis Hakachonis.
Yakachonis.
Sorry, I have to do it once wrong. He is getting a run in the G League as we expected him to do, and the turnovers are starting to come down a little bit. Again, I will say I've seen parts of one game, so I'm not going to speak to it. I'm sure you see there's highlights out there. This is what they should be doing with him, is letting him run a team. There's no reason for me to be sitting the bench with the big league club right now with all the guards that they have. But he's going to get a slow start instead of accumulating these numbers, right?
Right.
But the evidence is, and now we start to lean into it, that you liked him as a top 10 pick to begin with. They got him at 20. And the evidence is that they're going to be right, right? I mean, if you base it on the rest of this, they're going to be right.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a few things that were going to hold him back early anyway that they had to clean up, like his ball handling and getting in. I mean, he was in shape, but getting the NBA shape for the pace they want to play at. And so in the G League, you can see the vision. I mean, he has outstanding court vision, amazing facilitation ability, and defensively, he fits everything that they do. Yeah. He's been outstanding defensively down there in the G League as well. So once he gets the ball handling completely cleaned up, which he seems to be getting better every game at, and then figuring out finishing in the NBA with his lack of vertical athleticism, once he figures that out, he's going to be really good to go. And he did it really well in college, playing off 2 feet. He just has to do it a little bit more at this level. Young guys, when they first come into this league with the pace of the game, they tend to rush. And he kind of got outside of himself a little bit of what he did in college in the paint because he's trying to rush a little bit too much. But in the end, I think they're going to be right on this pick as well. I had him 8th on my big board.
Yeah, I know you did. And what we've seen in limited time, I mean, Summer League, you and I were out there, was choppy, except for the one game where he was brilliant. The defense is there though, and that's the biggest thing. Just as we saw it there with Larson at the very beginning, it's there. That gives them a baseline, and then they can kind of figure out the rest of the stuff. All right, Adel, we appreciate it. Kept you long on this one, but we appreciate everybody sticking in here. We will have coverage, of course, of Heat Pistons coming up on Friday night. Big week for the Heat coming up next week as well. I'll be up in Orlando for their game up there. So we're going to continue to cover this team like nobody's covering anybody locally in the entire United States. You can count on that. Also, check out Miami Heat on SI. We've gotten that site to number 2 overall. I don't know if we're going to catch the Lakers. We did pass the Warriors by Jimmy. We're number 2 in terms of views over the past month on the Heat site. So of all 30 NBA sites on SI. So appreciate the hard work for everybody there and appreciate all you guys checking in. Have a good one, everybody.